Christmas time is a great time to give and receive love. It's what we do. And that's one of the special things about Christmas, is we give and receive love to each other during Christmas. And we also want to give and receive love with God over Christmas. And so my challenge is for you guys this week and for this Christmas season is to receive love from God. Be aware of all the ways that God is giving you love and receive that. Be aware and intentional about receiving God's love this Christmas. You've probably heard of the book, The 5 Languages of Love, and people refer to that. And if you're not familiar, it's a good read, good thing to know. Primarily for any kind of relationships, but in a marriage, it's good to know. And if you read this book, then you learn what your primary love language is, what you like to give, the way you like to give love, and then the way you like to receive love. We like all of these, all of the 5, we're like, yeah, I like that. But you go through an exercise in this book and you kind of realize that's my primary way of giving love. And this is my primary way of receiving love. And then it's also good to know your spouses, what theirs are, because they keep doing this thing and you don't know what it is because it's not your primary way of giving love. And they're trying to give you love, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, that's their way of loving me. I should be aware of that. So it's a good book, great simple concept that can be applied to marriage and to other relationships. And we see it here, the 5 love languages we give and receive at Christmas time. And so there's one is physical touch. We do a lot of hugging at Christmas time, more than other times of the year. One of them is words of affirmation. And we do that at Christmas time. We say and write love, the word love, to each other. In fact, we probably have relationships with people who the only time we write love to them or say love to them, give those words of affirmation, is at Christmas time. In the Christmas card or the gift or the thank you card, we write love. And so that's the only time we give those words of affirmation and receive them. Another is quality time. And so we do with our loved ones, we take a break. Our nation takes a break at Christmas time, and we spend quality time with those we love. One is acts of service. And so you see the Marthas that are out there, the ones that are in the kitchen and working to serve everyone. That's their way of showing love. That's their love language. And so we serve one another. And then the 5th one is clearly a Christmas time thing. It's gifts. Giving and receiving gifts. And so Christmas time is a time when we give and receive love. And, I think we might be better at giving than we are receiving. I think what we do at Christmas time is we spend so much energy and so much time in wanting to give that love, in serving others, in finding the right gift, in making sure we get the cards out, in giving the hugs, in spending that time, making sure we have that time. We're giving. We're working really hard at that. Are we receiving? It goes both ways. We are to receive love, especially from God. Are you receiving love from God this Christmas? You are loved. That's the first note here, the first message. You are loved. God loves you. If we get anything from the Christmas story, it's that you are loved. The angel Gabriel comes to Mary and says, this is in the Greek, it's the word joy. First thing he says, joy. And that was used as a greeting. It was the word joy. Joy, and then he says, favored one. And the favored is from the root word of grace. Joy, one who has received grace, one who grace is given. And she then, of course, it is an angel, and most you see throughout the Bible, usually people are on the deck when an angel shows up. They're floored. And what happens with her is then she hears this greeting, and she's afraid. And then she ponders, is what the English translation of actually the Greek word that we know as dialogue. So she was fearful, she was afraid, and then she dialogued in her mind. She wondered what this greeting meant. Okay, and this is a perfect application to us in receiving love, especially from God. What happens is God comes to love us, and first of all, we're fearful. We're afraid. And then we go into this internal dialogue in our logic, and we can't really understand what this is, what's going on here. God comes to us and say, joy, I'm giving you grace. And we get afraid, and we go into our heads wondering, wait, we can't receive. Isn't that what happens to us? We have trouble receiving love. I know I do, and I'm sure I'm not alone, because we're fearful. We're fearful of it. It's so powerful. And so we put up this blockade of fear, and then we go into our internal dialogue, which, because we live in this world where most of us, we start to think logically, well, why? Why do you love me? I'm not famous. I'm not rich. I used to be good looking. And that's because that's the world that we live in. It tells us that you're not lovable. Why should I love you? What do you have? Or you need to earn it. Doesn't it? Don't we? The world, in essence, basically says, not only are you unlivable, you're invisible. And that's what we get reinforced. There's only certain people, the beautiful people, the celebrity. Those people are lovable. Or someone that just, we think, some perfect person who does a million things and has adopted 3 kids and has a mission field, and this person that you're like, golly, they're really earning it. What am I doing? Why should I be loved? I'm not lovable, is what the world tells us. Certainly, what Satan wants to say to us. And so we have trouble receiving love, just like Mary did. And so Gabriel then turns to her and says, don't be afraid, Mary. He knew her name. He knows your name, the messenger of God. Don't be afraid, Mary. Let the fear go away. Take the fear away. Then he says her name, which shows so much value, doesn't it? Everyone's favorite. What's everyone's favorite word? Their name. It's a way of valuing. You feel valued when someone says your name. And guess what Mary means? There's a little bit of a debate, but Mary means loved, beloved. So he said, don't be afraid. You're loved. You are loved. That's my challenge for you this Christmas, is to receive love, to not be afraid. It's not about logic. Don't get stuck in your head with the voices of the world trying to figure out why you're lovable, why you should be loved. You are loved. Receive it. In the second point, you will conceive and birth Jesus, and he will be great, the message from the angel. I'll take these together. I like this song, Mary, Did You Know? And I also take issue with the song, Mary, Did You Know? I like it. I like the music. I like the song. I like the fact that it's very popular. In fact, it is played in secular settings. People love that song. And what I love about it is that just like we had the year where we were, I Am Joseph was our theme, it really gets you in touch with I Am Mary. And that's what we need to think about. And Diana's reading gets us in touch with. We need to get there and say, I am Mary. What would that be like? What would it be like? I know it's harder for us guys than the gals, but what would it be like? And then it gets into I like the mystery of, of wonder. She stored all these things in her heart, and she wondered about it. And so that song really gets you in touch with that, and I like that, and I like that. And please don't let me ruin the song. But I also take issue because Mary, did you know? Well, have you read Luke 1? And Gabriel and Luke are looking at each other in heaven and going, did she know? And so I'm quite sure the author did know Luke 1, and sometimes in making a piece of art you need to have a certain focus. And so, but I think we need, being the enlightened, mature Christians that we are, we need to understand and not discount how much Mary did know and how much was said to her in the words of Gabriel and how Luke delivers it to us. Those things we need to treasure as well. Here, Gabriel comes to Mary, and with an efficiency of words that we all should have, just amazing 2 sentences, says, he will be great. He will be called the Son of God. He will reign on his forefather David's throne over the house of Jacob forever. His kingdom will never end. Now, that's a lot of information. And there's even names of God that are embedded in there. It's really rich. We could spend a lot of time on it. But she knew a lot. She was told this before she conceived by the angel Gabriel. And we also don't want to discount how much Mary would understand of this. We tend to think in a good sense that Mary was just a regular person. She was not rich and wealthy and famous like one of those people who in our mind we say deserve love. She was one of us. She was one of the people. But we know now the history of that area at that time. She was not ignorant, Mary. She was, even up in the suburbs, this is, Galilee, the region of Galilee, Nazareth. At that time, Jesus' day, when he was a child, in Mary's day, they were educated in Hebrew. The Shining Star students would go on to be rabbis. There were synagogues. We know that Joseph and Mary followed the law and knew the law because they went through the ceremonies after the birth. They also went to Jerusalem for celebrations. We know that they followed the law. So Mary was not ignorant of the understanding of the message that Gabriel was giving her. All the way back to Abraham was given 3 promises by God: land, nation, and a worldwide blessing. The nation grew in Egypt and then was led by Moses and Joshua into the land. First 2 taken care of. What is this worldwide blessing? Well, some thought it might be the law or even the temple. And then fast forward to King David, and he was ready to build the temple, the light to all nations. And God said, he kind of corrected him, didn't he? Well, you're not going to build it. Your son's going to build it. But let me tell you what's even more important is that you will have a son, grandson, great-grandson. Someone will come from you that will be king over the whole world, who will sit on God's throne and bring peace to the earth. That will be the worldwide blessing. And so that gets focused. And now at that time, Jesus' time and Mary's time, it was called the Second Temple period. It was after the first temple was built, destroyed, there was exile, there was restoration, it was rebuilt, and they lived during the Second Temple period, and they were waiting for the King, the Messiah. There was great anticipation. In fact, there was others before and even after who many of the people claimed, this is him. They were anticipating it highly. So Mary was not ignorant of this. And so when Gabriel comes and says, your son will be great, he will be called the Son of God, he will sit on David's throne, he will reign on David's throne forever over the house of Jacob, she understood that. She had a great picture of that. She knew prophecy. She knew Isaiah. He said, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Almighty God, Everlasting Father. And of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. He will reign on David's throne, establishing it and upholding it from that time and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. She knew that. So when we sing Mary, Did You Know, we don't want to do it discounting all that Mary knew. We want to live in that mystery that Mary was holding what she knew and was promised her and told her was the Messiah. But still, that had to blow her mind. and she had to be in great wonder. And we should be the same way, because we also are part of that big plan in God's prophecies coming true. We're part of it, just like Mary was part of it. And so we can also, at Christmas time especially, get lost in the wonder of God's plan that we are aware of and we are part of. And we can enjoy that as Mary did. So I hope I didn't ruin the song for you. Enjoy it as much as you ever did. Even more so, I hope. Knowing that how much she did know and how much she appreciated and saw and was just lost in wonder that this promised son was hers, her baby. And then the fourth point, you are not alone. Barb Abney, we've been asking Murray and I with Monarch, with the middle school, and any of you, if you're interested, are welcome. We've been asking people to come and tell their story at Monarch. I've taught for several times, and now the kids need to hear some other people too. They're not listening to me anymore. And there are, but it's just so great to have people come and tell their story. And we've had a few of you, and we'd like to have all of you. And so let me know. Murray and I will schedule. We'll stick you in there. We want to hear your stories. You guys are awesome. In doing this, Warren came this week. Dave's coming next week. In doing this, Murray and I have said, man, we got an awesome group of people here. Barb came and told her story of walking the Appalachian Trail this year, her pilgrimage. And she came dressed up in all her gear and brought her backpack and everything. And it was just great. And then she showed us pictures and started to go through the story of her experience. And as she went along, and it was always, someone needs to set up a bucket back here. It's actually dripping. There usually are a few buckets when it's rainy. I don't know. Don't worry about it, Don. It's dripped in here for how many years, Tom? Yeah, 25, yeah. So, great backdrop, though. Isn't it great? For me, I'd be on the snowboard right now if I was in the audience thinking of. So, where was I? You are not alone. So Barb's telling her story, and the thing about going on the trail, she went by herself, but there was always other people. And so she was showing us pictures. You'd go into one of these shelters, and it would be full of hikers. And so you weren't completely alone, but she was hiking alone for much of the trip, and she was sharing her experiences on Facebook. And you guys remember Bobby Whiting was following her, and Bobby said to her over Facebook, "Hey, you need some friends. I'm going to pray for some friends for you." And Barb kind of took that and said, "Okay, I'm fine. This is kind of my pilgrimage." But soon, right after that, she met two friends, and so they became a threesome and traveled together. And she talked about how awesome that was. And they have trail names. You don't have your regular name. You have a trail name. And so one was Purple Streak, and I don't remember the other one. And then there was this guy Wizard who would show up every once in a while. So, but it was just, God brings people into our life. You are never alone in your walk in faith. Mary was not alone. Here, even before she conceived, right here, Gabriel's not only giving her this message that you are going to birth the Messiah, he also says, by the way, you're not alone in this. In fact, your relative your relative is 6 months pregnant, and that's your pregnancy pal. You're not alone. And it's always surprising people who God brings into our life, isn't it? He's talking about Elizabeth. Well, Elizabeth was unable to have children through her childbearing years and was now beyond that. She was older than that. And so for her to be Mary's pregnancy pal is a big shock and surprise. And that's what God does. What did I do? Oh, yeah. So we have some Christmas prayers saying, God, please don't do that for me. So, hey, be careful what you ask God don't do, right? So we're never alone. At one point, the great prophet Elijah broke down and said, God, I'm all alone. I am the only one left. Do you remember that? He was so distraught. He was so worn out. And he said, I'm the only one left. And God said, no, you're not the only one left. I've reserved 7,000 who have not bent the knee to Baal. There's 7,000 that are still holding strong, that are worshiping me. We are on this path, this pilgrimage, just like Mary. We're part of God's plan, and sometimes we can feel alone. You're not alone. God brings people into your life, and he does it in amazing and unexpected ways. And then the last point, nothing is impossible with God. When Mary has a question, Gabriel responds, look, nothing is impossible for God. And that goes along with the idea of receive God's love this Christmas. We as humans have 5 love languages. God has a lot more. Nothing's impossible for God. He can love you. Throw up as many obstacles as you want, he can break through them. God can love you. God does love you. It's not impossible. And if you think it is impossible, well, nothing's impossible for God. I think sometimes we do. We get so down on ourselves, we say that it's impossible for someone to love me. Or we think it's pretty darn hard. Maybe not impossible. Well, nothing's impossible for God. He can do it. He will do it. He wants to do it. If we just open our hearts just a little bit, if we open our minds, if we open our eyes, if we spend a little quiet, if we glance at that living word, if we look in the eyes of another, there's so many ways that God can love us. And he wants to love us this Christmas. He wants to give us love. And so accept it. Open up. Come back and tell me the way that God surprised you with his love. You are loved.